Recording in progress.
This meeting is being recorded.
Recording stopped.
The recording has stopped.
All right.
Recording in progress.
This meeting is being recorded.
If everybody could mute their mics, that would be really helpful. And we're going to live stream this as well. We'll get started right now. Caitlin, I'm going to start streaming, let everybody in, and all righty, here we go. Oh, got one more. There's John. Okay, great. All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We want to thank you for tuning in this morning. If you could please turn off your cameras and your microphones. We are going to be taking questions via the chat after our announcements. We're here to discuss developments surrounding the ongoing lawsuit between Alex Murdaugh and Nautilus Insurance Company. Our goal here is to provide clarity. I'm going to let the rest of these people in. Our goal here is to provide you all with some clarity, provide some insight and some resources that you all will need to be reporting on the story. This morning, we've got attorneys Eric Bland and Ronnie Richter, who represent the Satterfield family. They are going to be available for questions and releasing internal documents and audio files related to the case. I want to start us off with a statement from Ronnie. Ronnie, I'll let you take the floor. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Eric Bland, my partner, and I thought it was important today that we address the latest misinformation campaign that's been launched by Team Murdaugh, and that we correct a false narrative that's been advanced through the pleadings in the Nautilus lawsuit, and clear the fog once and for all about what we know about how Gloria died at Mizell. So on May 1st, 2023, as you know, Alex Murdaugh filed an answer in the Nautilus lawsuit, which lawsuit seeks to recover from Alex the $3.8 million that it paid in settlement of Gloria's case. In short, what Nautilus contends is that it paid the money to Alex in trust based upon false statements or false pretenses that were advanced by Alex Murdaugh. Now, incredibly, in answering the lawsuit, Murdaugh claims now for the first time that he, quote, invented the critical facts giving rise to the Satterfield claim, and that no dogs were involved in Gloria's death. Now, as if he has not caused enough damage to the Satterfield family, Murdaugh took the additional step in the lawsuit, although he didn't have to, of suggesting by way of defense that because he successfully stole the money and because that money is gone, but also because the Satterfields were successful in obtaining money from other sources, that Nautilus should look to the Satterfields to get back the money that Alex stole. Now, while not parties to the lawsuit, the continued attacks on the Satterfields cannot and will not be ignored. Although Murdaugh is a well-documented liar, Eric and I felt it important that we address the latest false narrative through the release of internal investigative reports that were conducted at the time of Gloria's death by the attorneys who were engaged at that time to investigate those facts and circumstances, as well as to release the audio interview that was given by Alex contemporaneous with Gloria's death, where he says in his own words, how Gloria died at Mizell that day. Now, importantly, and you'll get these documents, what the investigative report reveals are not just statements from Alex, but interview notes from interviews that were conducted with both Maggie and Paul. And those interviews established the following facts. Number one, on the day of Gloria's death, all 4 of the Murdaugh's dogs were loose on the property. And that includes Bubba, who's a 90-pound Labrador Retriever, Bourbon, a 55-pound Labrador Retriever, Blue, a 65-pound Labradoodle, and Sassy, a 25-pound German Shorthair. Number two, it was described in the investigative report that it was common for the dogs to, quote, get under people's feet when they came to the property. Number three, Maggie in her interview described Bourbon as being, quote, just horrible, and an excited dog who is an attention-seeking dog. Number four, Maggie and Paul were both asleep when Gloria arrived at the property. Number five, Maggie and Paul were both awakened by dogs barking loudly. And number six, when Maggie went to the front door, she found Gloria at the bottom of the stairs, clearly injured, bleeding from the head. And she described that at the time, all four dogs were around Gloria. Now, in a separate interview, Paul stated that he was asleep when he heard the dogs barking. He heard his mother call out for help. He came outside. He also found Gloria at the bottom of the stairs and injured. Paul remembers that when his dad, Alex, arrived, Alex asked Gloria at the time what happened, and Paul heard Gloria say, quote, something about dogs. All right, so that's what we know about the dog's role in Gloria's death. Alex told the investigators at that time that the dogs came into contact with Gloria, not aggressively, not viciously, but maybe excitedly, caused her to lose her balance and caused her to fall. Now, although since the time of Gloria's death, Alex has been convicted of having murdered, the two most important eyewitnesses to the case, this circumstantial evidence is powerful, and it clearly establishes the manner in which Gloria died.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Also, don't forget that after the funeral, when they were in the home and having some food, Alex, in front of the entire Satterfield and Hadwin family, told them that the dogs caused the fall, and it was in front of Maggie and Paul that he said it. So it was there as well.
Yeah, and Maggie and Paul, by their silence, endorsed that statement. And so now it would appear the only person who contests the manner in which Gloria died is Alex Murdaugh, and he only contested in the context of now being sued by Nautilus to recover the money that it had entrusted to Alex. So at the end of this press conference, I'm going to turn it over to Eric, who's going to share some of our points of view about the case, about the claims. But at the end of this press conference, we're going to make available to you a complete copy of that report for your own review, as well as a complete copy of the 12-minute and 45-second audio interview with Alex Murdaugh, in which he describes to the investigators how Gloria died. So with that, I'll turn it over to Eric.
Faulkner said about the idiot, it's full of sound and fury signifying nothing. There's just tremendous amounts of misinformation that are constantly plowed out there by Dick and Jim and Alex. And we believe that the press and the public are being played here because legally and factually, they are 100% wrong. We recovered more than $7.5 million from sources other than Nautilus Insurance Company. Nautilus Insurance Company has never paid 1 cent to the Satterfields, nothing. The answer says that they gave the money to Alex Murdaugh in trust. They didn't give the money to Alex Murdaugh in trust. It went to Corey Fleming, who was also the lawyer for the Satterfields. We recovered from PMPED, from Palmetto State Bank, from Bank of America, from Chad Westendorf, from Corey Fleming, and from Moss, Kuhn, and Fleming for claims of breach of duty, of aiding and abetting Alex, claims that are separate apart for whatever Alex did to the Satterfields. And by the way, every one of these target defendants had lawyers and investigators. And before they paid us that money last year, they had the absolute right to investigate from anew and start over and say, hey, you know what? We don't think the dogs caused the fall. They did not do that because they looked into it themselves. They made decisions to settle the case that maybe had nothing at all to do with Gloria's death, but that they didn't want to be associated with Alex Murdaugh. You know what isn't in Alex Murdaugh's pleading? A confession of judgment to say, you're right, Nautilus Insurance Company, I stole $3.8 million from you. Here's where it is. Here's where you can find it. What he says is, I get to keep the 3.8 million, and you can look to the Satterfields. This is completely not founded in law. It's not founded in fact. More importantly, insurance companies are not in the business of paying out millions of dollars before they do investigations. And at that time, at the fall, in February of 2018, insurance companies hired investigators, adjusters, internal adjusters, third-party adjusters, and they had attorneys. And these attorneys wrote their recommendation letters to the carrier, suggesting it would be a good thing for them to settle. If somebody really wants to look at the origins of the Nautilus money and where it went, perhaps Dick and Jim should add themselves as a party to the case, because the money, the 3.8 million, was stolen in May of 2019. What happened around May of 2019? Paul was charged with the DUI boating accident of Mallory Beach. What did Alex and Paul do? They retained Jim Griffin and Dick Harpootlian for what we're told was $500,000. Where did that $500,000 come from? Are those the ill-gotten gains from Nautilus Insurance Company? Are those the funds that Alex admitted during his murder trial that he stole from all of his clients? It's just almost a perversion of the justice system to suggest that the Satterfield family be victimized again. To have a Nautilus Insurance Company who has no relationship with the Satterfields at this point in time because they never paid them a penny. More importantly, Dick and Jim, with all of their fancy litigation moves that they do, just walked Alex in, if he is to be believed, to new criminal charges. Because in a pleading, it's a judicial admission that Alex just admitted through his lawyers, I committed insurance fraud, I committed wire fraud, I committed mail fraud. So at this point in time, we just don't see where this gets them in any shape or form. It's for me, it's just more fog that they're trying to create, almost like it's personal that Dick and Jim want to go after us and the Satterfields. You saw the way that Dick cross-examined Tony. It was rude. The time period, though, this is what's interesting to me. If Alex was ever going to come clean, if he was lying originally about the dogs tripping Gloria, would have been in May of 2022. What happened in May of 2022? Ronnie and I already collected more than $7.5 million from all these other parties. Alex, who didn't want to be sued from us anymore, gave a judgment of $4.3 million to the Satterfields. Now, what person would permit a judgment to be given against him if he wasn't guilty? That would have been the time for Dick and Jim to stand up and say, hey, Bland, hey, Richter, you guys got money? You shouldn't even have gotten that money because our client lied. He told the truth then when he gave the judgment. And so for us, all of a sudden now Alex is the modicum of honesty, the modicum of truth. It's just more spin by him. He doesn't tell you where the money went, the 3.8 million. He doesn't tell you how Gloria died. And oh, by the way, everybody's saying, oh, let's exhume Gloria. I don't believe the state's going to do that because if she's exhumed, her injuries are never going to be able to be told on how she died. If she was pushed down the stairs, her injuries are exactly the same as if the dogs tripped her and pushed her down the stairs, or if she herself tripped from the top stairs. They're not going to solve a crime. And it's very convenient that the three people who could support or contradict Alex are all dead: Paul, Maggie, and Gloria. So for us, we finally felt that we've heard enough trash from that side of the camp, and we had to come out and and show you contemporaneous evidence that Alex, Maggie, and Paul gave to first responders, to the insurance companies, to the Satterfield family at a time when it was more truthful to give that statement. Not at a time where Alex is already a convicted double murderer, where a jury in less than 3 hours in summary fashion rejected his testimony outright. And by the way, 2 weeks ago, the very same judge who's hearing this Nautilus Insurance Company case, Judge Richard Gergel, held in an order denying a motion for a new trial to Russell Lafitte that Alex Murdaugh is a fraudster, a habitual liar, and has already been determined as such by a Colleton County jury.
Thank you, Eric, so much. If you all have questions, go ahead and flip on your camera and we'll do it that way. And I'll try to get to anybody before we jump off. If not, Caitlin's dropped the link to these documents and this audio for you all to go through in the chat. I'll also send you an email with those links as well. We appreciate you all attending this morning. Make sure we've got everybody. John, how are you? You got a question for us? Yeah, you're
Unmute
muted.
your mic.
There you go. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hey.
sir.
I have a question. It's really basic. I think I know the answer, but can you explain in everyday terms what difference it makes if the dogs were the cause of Gloria's death or she just tripped and fell herself? What is?
Well, it makes a big difference in theory to an insurance company, because people can trip and fall on your property, and that does not make you liable as a landowner. If they tripped and fell going down the stairs and your stairs were defective or they were not built according to code, then yes, you could be held liable. But if I was exiting your house, John, and I walked down the stairs and because of my own neglect, I didn't watch what I was doing, I tripped and fell, I couldn't sue you. But if you have 4 dogs that you know are unruly and are misbehaving and that greet people, and you look at those stairs at Mazzell and you know how dangerous they are, how steep they are, and they're brick pointed stairs, then that puts a duty on you that if you're going to have visitors to your house, to make sure that your dogs are properly restrained.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Riley, how you doing?
Good morning. How's everybody doing? Question, I think I know the answer, but based upon the exhumation comments you made, but is there any need to pursue a death investigation at this point based upon Alex's comments in his filing last week?
Ronnie?
No, it doesn't change anything for us. Look, the family spent 3 weeks with Gloria in the hospital. I mean, they're very acutely aware of how she died. And like to Eric's point, the family will support law enforcement if they want to do this, but they feel like they have their answers. There's going to be nothing about these injuries that are going to point to one cause versus another. She fell down the stairs, she struck her head, and that was her cause of death.
Thank you, Ronnie. And Jeanette. Morning.
Hi, good morning. What is the likelihood, or I guess fear on behalf of, or concern on behalf of Ronnie and Eric, that Nautilus could potentially seek to claw back this money by coming after your clients?
No fear whatsoever.
None.
They don't have a legal or factual basis to do it, because it would be like if the Satterfields won the lottery and Nautilus wants to come after them for the lottery money because Alex stole the 3.8 million. If they got the 3.8 million that was paid by Nautilus, if it went through Alex and Corey and got to them, then technically, yes, they could make a claim and say, you know what, we were fraudulently induced to do this. But again, putting aside all that, there's 100 years of release and settlement law that would have to be overcome. They did this with open eyes. They had the absolute right and investigated these claims. They had the absolute right to disprove and say, no, it wasn't the dogs that caused the fall. Gloria was coming to work. She comes to work every day at 10 o'clock, and therefore it would be a workers' compensation claim. We have no fear. And by the way, if they do bring us in, people are going to be countersued for frivolous litigation. I don't believe Judge Gergel's going to let anybody bringing the Satterfields in, but we recovered our money for breaches of duty from others, not from Nautilus.
Yeah, Antoinette,
But that's where it came from, though. You know, the genesis of this whole thing, you know, like, I guess it starts at the insurance company, though. That's why I'm, you know, wondering these. I'm sorry.
No, it doesn't. Corey Fleming had an obligation to prevent Alex Murdaugh from stealing their money. Had an obligation to say, you know, you can't bring this claim against the insurance company. That's a breach of his duty owed to our clients.
No, but
He had a
Antoinette,
duty not that in conspiracy with Alex.
more fundamentally, there's a signed settlement agreement in which Nautilus Insurance Company agrees to pay the Satterfields $3.8 million. That did not happen. All right, so that payment was intercepted by Alex Murdaugh and stolen. And so legally, technically, we never got the $3.8 million from Nautilus Insurance Company. Now you would say, well, we're made whole by the other recoveries. We don't think that's true at all. We think that the Satterfield claims are worth well in excess of even the money that we recovered, because it's not just you put the cookie back in the cookie jar. There has to be a consequence for what happened here. And so we would have valued the claim far in excess of even the money that we received. So no, we don't perceive any risk here. We've not been paid that money. These two lines of money never cross.
And Jeanette, just as a further explanation, the intervening criminal acts of a third party cut the chain of liability to the Satterfields. The intervening criminal act of Alex Murdaugh, who was the insured and the target defendant, cut whatever equitable argument could be made against the Satterfields. That's why Nautilus has sued Alex, because they know that he has the money. And again, Alex is defending this case. He hasn't entered a judgment. He hasn't said, you got me, here it is, I'm liable, this is where the money went. He wants to keep the money.
One last question from Tara. Tara, I see you up there, and then we'll get this wrapped up. Oh, I think she was there. Tara, you good? Okay. Legally, what's next? What can we expect?
Nothing from us.
Nothing from us.
We're going to collect now. We're going to start collecting on the $4.3 million judgment. Last week we had a court hearing where Alex's lawyers were asking for another $160,000 from the receivers funds that have been marshaled by John Lay and Peter McCoy. And I argued strenuously against approving that. They tried to say, well, if you don't let him get this money, then the public's going to have to pay for his appeal, which again is another red herring argument, because Jim Griffin did a de facto GoFundMe. We don't know how much money Jim Griffin raised through his de facto GoFundMe. We know that Alex inherited a $4 million trust from his father. And oh, by the way, it was said in the press conference by Dick and Jim after he was held guilty on the murder charges that his family believes more than ever that he's innocent. So you know what family have to do for other family members? Cough up money, pay for his appeal. So we are fighting Alex continuously on not getting the $160,000. We argued that the money that the receivers has will be paid in the court, and then everybody will be shoulder to shoulder. All victims, all creditors will make their application, and a court or a special referee will decide who gets paid. But if you let Alex get to the front of the line, then all you are doing is rewarding his theft that he admitted in his trial that he stole over $8 million from his clients. So that's what we have going on right now. We continue to sue Russell Lafitte on behalf of the Plylers, and the sentencing for Russell Lafitte is probably coming up within the next 6 to 8 weeks. Ronnie and I plan on speaking at that sentencing hearing. Our clients, the Plyler sisters, are going to speak. And we know that we have the Corey Fleming trial coming up on all days, September 11th this year. So that's kind of what the calendar looks like.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everyone, for attending. I'll send up a follow-up with links. We are here and available for questions if you have them. Appreciate y'all. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.